All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to tackle one of those huge questions, the ones that connect our biology, the universe, and what it even means to be conscious.
So let me just ask you this right off the bat. Are you an individual? I mean, of course you are, right? Seems like the most obvious thing in the world. But what if that feeling, that deep down certainty of being a totally unique, separate person, what if it's more of an illusion? What if we're all plugged into something we've just forgotten about?
There's this ancient quote that just nails this idea perfectly. It suggests that our whole modern take on who we are might just be like looking into a foggy mirror. We can kind of make out our own shape, but we're completely missing the bigger picture.
Okay, so let's start right there. Let's try and dismantle this modern myth of the lone individual. And we're going to do it by looking at the one thing that every single one of us shares.
We love to think we're unique. And in a way, we are. But think about this. Every civilization that has ever existed, every empire that's risen and fallen, every single act of kindness or cruelty, all of it was done using the exact same tool, the Homo sapient body. You might not be everyone else, but you are profoundly like them. We're all running on the same fundamental hardware.
And this just perfectly sums up the problem, doesn't it? We're each piloting this unbelievably complex, ancient piece of biological tech, but our obsession with pure individualism means we're treating it like a dumb object. We are completely missing the wisdom that's built right into it.
But see, that space station isn't just a machine. It's more like an oracle. It holds a kind of wisdom that is way, way older and deeper than any single person or even any single society.
4.3 billion years! That's the R&D budget that went into the body you're using right now. All of human philosophy, all of our grand societies, they're basically a flash in the pan compared to the deep, brutal, evolutionary testing that's written into your own biology.
And get this, even our so-called flaws are just ancient programs. Take Philodia, this idea of a destructive kind of self-love. It's not just some moral failing. The source material describes it as a biological fail-safe, a switch that gets flipped out of fear when we feel like our back is against the wall. It's an ancient, and in a way, a totally rational response.
And this programming, it goes all the way down to the cellular level. This is where the sources trace the very beginnings of morality. It's this simple loop. Something happens, the cell checks if it's good or bad for survival, and then it makes a choice, move toward it or move away. Every complex ethical debate we have is just a supersized version of this basic biological calculation.
So if the body is this ancient hardware, this oracle, then what's the software? What's the program that's running? Well, the sources give us this surprisingly technical way of looking at consciousness, or what you might call the soul. Yeah, let's put the mystical stuff aside for just a second and get a little nerdy. Functionally, the soul is defined here as an information processing system. It's your unique lens on reality. It's constantly taking in new data, checking it against everything you already know, and then deciding what to do next.
To make it even more real, think of your soul like a living database. Seriously, it has persistent storage, that's your memory. You can query it to pull up information, you update it with every new experience, and the whole system is constantly working to keep itself consistent. It's the living, breathing code of you.
But here's where it gets really wild. This software isn't just running on its own. The oldest lines of its code, according to these sources, are literally written in your DNA. These are like pointers that connect your individual mind to a library of definitions that existed before any life as we know it. The biological echo is right there, in the soul's source code. Okay, so if we're all running on similar hardware with software that connects back to the same ancient codebase, what happens when we all interact? How do all these individual little systems create one big collective reality?
The material here brings up this idea of a hive mind, but it explains it with this really cool physics analogy. Direct communication, talking to someone, sending a text, that's like electromagnetism. It's strong, it's focused, but it's short range. But then there's this other thing, the collective consciousness, and that acts more like gravity. It's a weak, invisible force that affects everything and everyone. It's what creates trends, gut feelings, the whole vibe of an era.
And this collective field, it's structured by archetypes. But we're not just talking about characters in old stories. The sources define them as active forces, almost like fields of energy. They're these inherited ancient patterns that are always pushing to be expressed in the real world, shaping our individual lives and the entire course of history.
And that brings us to the final, really mind-blowing takeaway. The pattern that's inside you, the pattern that shapes our society, and the pattern of the entire universe, they're all reflections of each other.
It's this amazing principle called scale invariance. Just look at this. At the personal level, you have growth and learning versus trauma and decay. Zoom out to a group, and you have innovation versus corruption and war. Zoom out all the way to the universe, and you have cosmic evolution and life versus heat-death. It is the exact same dynamic of opening up versus closing down, playing out at every single level of reality.
And it all comes down to this: the fundamental rules that govern your own inner world, the very geometry of a single thought. They are a direct echo of the laws that govern the entire cosmos. You aren't just in the universe, you are a perfect fractal piece of it.
Which brings us right back to the beginning. Back to that hyper-advanced space station you've been living in. It's not just a body, it's a living library, packed with billions of years of hard-won, field-tested data. So the only real question left is, in this loud, distracting world, have we forgotten how to listen to it?